Oh, hey guys. Sorry, I was just trying to look out my window, to see if hell's frozen over because it looks like old Francesco, you know, Aquilini, Aquafina, whatever you want to call him. Uh, Apparently he's approved a rebuild for the Vancouver Canucks, according to Jim Rutherford. So that's why I was kind of looking outside, see if, hell's frozen over because what? Aquilini has finally gotten a big old dose of reality, or he's finally caved, or hell's really frozen over. I mean, it is the Christmas season, so maybe we're gonna dive into this and talk all about this in this video. So buckle up, Canuck fans. Canucks are heading for a rebuild. So let's go ahead and hit the intro, and then we're gonna break all this new interview from Jim Rutherford that he did with Patrick Johnston. We're gonna go over it. I'm gonna hit the intro, and let's get into it. What's up, Canuck fans? Welcome to the Line Change. And as I said in that little intro a little bit, hell has frozen over because Francesco Aquilini, shocking revelation, has approved a Canucks rebuild. We're going to go over a article and interview that Jim Rutherford does with Patrick Johnston of the province, where he basically reveals how he managed to convince Francesco Aquilini that a rebuild is what the Canucks need, and this is what this franchise needs to do in order to become a contending Stanley Cup team. And that all starts with a trade of your captain, Quinn Hughes, your best defenseman in franchise history. Some could even say and argue that he was the best player in franchise history, at least with the trajectory that he was on had he stayed. So let's go ahead and check out this article from the province that talks about this. And also, happy holidays. I know Christmas is about a week away, so Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everybody watching this right now. So let's go ahead and bring this up. I'm actually going to maximize this a little bit so you guys can actually see. I know not everybody has glasses, so let's go ahead and maximize this. The owner is on board, Rutherford told me Monday evening. This is Patrick Johnston saying. Aquilini understands where we're at and of the circumstances, Rutherford said. The conversations I've had, he understands. Hughes was going to go. Rutherford has admitted to everyone. Hughes likely wanted to go, had been the talk behind the scenes for some time, and certainly the assumption I'd been operating under for a while now, even if no one was saying it on record. But how did the veteran hockey boss convince the man who pays the bills that focusing on adding young players and draft picks is the way forward? The simple reality of the modern NHL, Rutherford told me. So yeah, how did Jim Rutherford convince Francesco Aquilini, the guy who loves his 2 playoff games of revenue that Canucks fans have been, losing their minds over and, for lack of a better term, ripping apart this owner about? Well, Rutherford had an answer to that. When we look at where our league is compared to 10 years ago, when it comes to free agency, the players just aren't there, he argued. Last summer, one could argue, taught a lesson in that reality. trades still happen, but the reality that to build out your roster, you need to juice your efforts in the draft. The Hughes trade played out even better than he hoped, he claimed. I was stressed. We wouldn't get the return we were after, he said. We would be painted into a corner. We do now need some success in this draft. If we were to do that, we'll avoid a 4 or 5 year rebuild. So that is from Jim Rutherford. I'm going to go over a separate article that kind of intertwines with this article and, those comments as well. And this also kind of references the Boston Bruins and what they did a number of years ago. So let's go ahead and bring this up. And it goes on to say, obviously, the Vancouver Canucks' president of hockey operations will want to get at least one high-end pick in there, referring to the draft, but you can still build out a roster full of handy players if you really do hit your marks. Rutherford has been in the game a very long time, so he knows how teams can be built. There's a real chance for him and his staff to reset the Vancouver Canucks, and quickly. Let's go over this next part. And this is where the Boston Bruins comparison gets brought into this article. Just take a look at the Boston Bruins as drafts from 2014 to 2016. Across those 3 draft years, the Bruins picked 16 players who ended up playing NHL games, totaling 4,818 games. Of those 16 players, 6 have played more than 500 games. Charlie McAvoy, Jake DeBrusk, Brandon Carlo, David Pastrnak, Ryan Donato, and Danton Heinen. And 3 others who fall below that mark are still pretty useful NHLers nonetheless: Jeremy Lauzon, Trent Frederick, and Ryan Lindgren. Now let's continue. There are a couple legit stars in that haul, plus a handful of truly useful players. This is what Jim Rutherford means when he says the Canucks have to nail their upcoming drafts, especially in 2026, when they want to be picking high in the first round. We'll have another pick late in the first round, and you have to think are dreaming of adding at least one more first-round pick. 3 first-rounders in one draft has the chance to truly redefine the future of this team. But of those Bruins, even in the midst of all their draft success, tell another tale there. At the 2015 draft, when Boston had made some astute trades to land 3 first-round picks in a row, 13, 14, and 15, as that draft unfolded, there was some real buzz that the Bruins were set to land a remarkable trio of mid-tier prospects, guys who could follow on from Pasternak's late-blooming, exciting prospects. As Reese Jessup, then of Canucks Army and now an amateur scout for the Carolina Hurricanes, said as the draft was unfolding, Boston had a chance to land Matt Barzal, Kyle Connor, and Ulrich Kylington. All 3 were highly regarded, even though they were outside the top 10 of the draft. And the Bruins stunned everybody by not picking any of those 3, instead choosing Jacob Zboril, DeBrusk, and Zach Senyshyn. Zboril and Senyshyn quite clearly were busts. DeBrusk, play on words there, has proven to be a solid NHLer and now plays for Rutherford and could prove to be a key veteran leader in this fast rebuild. He has played in a Stanley Cup final, after all, in 2019 when the Bruins lost to the St. Louis Blues. Imagine if the Bruins had drafted even one of Barzal or Connor, Stanley Cup in 2019 or 2020 maybe. They would be a perennial cup contender for sure. That said, even without those 2 electric wingers, they're still among the league's best. The other point to remember here is how the Bruins ended up with these picks. In both 2015 and 2016, they missed the playoffs, although only by a hair or 2, they were still trying to win. Imagine if they had made a few more calculated trades, moves which strategically weakened their roster in such a way that they had ended up drafting in the top 10 or even the top 5. That's where the Canucks find themselves at the moment. They do need to find a way to not win too much here. The 2026 draft is a good one with some truly prodigious talent at the top. If they can find themselves into the top 3, where they could select a Gavin McKenna or an Ivar Stenberg, that would certainly juice their chances of pulling off a quick rebuild and avoiding a 4 to 5 year slog, which Rutherford is desperate to avoid. So basically what this is saying is Rutherford is eyeing a 3-year rebuild for the Vancouver Canucks. He doesn't want to he doesn't want it to go past 3 years. So he's basically banking on the Canucks drafting well over the next 3 years. At least that's what I'm getting from this. And it's really interesting to have the, Bruins comparison with the Canucks. And actually kind of ironic too, because the Canucks play the Bruins on Saturday. But yeah, that I actually, believe it or not, some of this I didn't even know. Not that I pay much attention to the Boston Bruins, because I don't. I'm not a Bruins fan, but I found this interesting. Which one was it? This one, talking about how the Bruins had a chance to land a guy like Matt Barzal, Kyle Connor. Obviously, I haven't really heard Kylington's name, really, at least lately, so maybe he was a bit of a bust. But the fact that they had those first two, Matt Barzal and Kyle Connor, they could have drafted those guys. Like those two guys. But instead they picked Zaboro, who was a bust, and Senishin, who was a bust as well. But at least DeBrusk wasn't the bust. And, again, ironic that he's playing for the Vancouver Canucks now. But the fact that they didn't do that, wow, that's a mind. And if I were a Boston Bruins fan, I'd be pissed off about that. Because those are two really good players in Barzal and Connor. But yeah, it's very interesting to have this, comparison between the two teams. But again, the Canucks finally are in a rebuild, according to Jim Rutherford. And that, I think the more shocking revelation in this whole thing, this whole rebuild talk, is that Francesco Aquilini is actually down for it. He's okay with it. Like, he's approved it. And if you really think about it, people have lost their jobs over even so much as uttering the idea of a rebuild. Trevor Linden, I mean, technically he didn't get fired. He kind of left, on his own terms, but he brought it up. Mike Gillis got fired, and he brought it up. He was suggesting them rebuilding in 2013, which is, in my opinion, when the Canucks actually should have rebuilt. Now, yeah, Rutherford says 10 years ago, the draft or free agency was a lot different. But I still strongly believe, as a Canucks fan, that the Vancouver Canucks should have rebuilt in 2013. And maybe between now and then, they may actually have a Stanley Cup. And we can finally say Vancouver Canucks have won a Stanley Cup. But that didn't happen. And here we are now, almost a week removed from trading their best defenseman in franchise history. And honestly, now that I have had more time to think about the trade, and I've obviously spoken a lot about the trade, especially on this channel, but now that I've had time to really, really digest it, almost a week later, to me, this was the first sign of a Canucks rebuild. And I've been kind of saying it for a while now. If they traded Quinn Hughes, the Canucks are rebuilding. Like, that's the end of it. End of discussion, no rebuffing it or whatever. But you trade Quinn Hughes, that's your way of saying you are rebuilding. And they did it. So that's my whole thing on that. But I really want to know what you guys think about, this interview that Rutherford did. And, just the fact that, as I said, hell's frozen over because Francesco Aquilini is okay with the rebuild finally after years of saying no and, rejecting it and being like, no, I want my 2 playoff games of revenue and that's it. He's been saying that for years, and Canucks fans have been, wanting to, not necessarily rip him apart, but they've been like, you're an idiot. You're like one of the worst owners in the entire league, which is still the case, by the way. But somehow, some way, Jim Rutherford managed to open his eyes or convince him. I don't know what Jimmy did, but bravo, Jimmy. Like, okay, I gotta say, mad respect. You were able to convince Francesco Aquilini that a rebuild is what this franchise needs if they want to contend for a Stanley Cup and possibly win one. Win one before I die. And, obviously my good friend Kempner, he's all on that train, and so am I too. I want the Canucks to win at least one Stanley Cup before I die. And yeah, so this is huge. As I say in the title, this is a shocking revelation. That Francesco Aquilini has approved a Canucks rebuild. I did see a video earlier, Canucks conversation saying rebuild is over. I don't know what that. I haven't actually watched it yet, so I'm not sure what that meant. But rebuild is just getting started, folks. So buckle up, because it's going to get bumpy. I'll tell you that for free. Canucks are about to embark on a rebuild, but that's whole thing though, where I'm hesitant. I'm all for the rebuild. I'm all on that rebuild train. I'm not on the tanking train, but Rutherford also needs to keep in mind, in my opinion, you can't really bank on that, like put all your chips in on that, whole thing, because keep in mind, there's a draft lottery. It's called a lottery for a reason, and it's not a guarantee that you're going to get the first overall pick. You could finish dead last in the league and still not get the first overall pick. It's not a guarantee. So I wouldn't put all my chips in that basket, but obviously, hey, if the Canucks manage to get Gavin McKenna, I'm all for it. I'd also be satisfied with a top 5 pick as well. I want to give a shout out to my sponsors, Gassy Jack Art, maker of this fine artwork you see behind me, and you guys can check them out yourselves at GassyJackArt.com. I believe he has his buy 2 get 2 free sale still going on, so go ahead and check him out. Once again, that's GassyJackArt.com. And I also want to give a shout out to my primary sponsor, DraftKings. The jaw-dropping moments that make hockey, hockey. Experience them all with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Missouri listeners, listen up. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in the Show Me State. New customers, this one's just for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN, that's code THPN, to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, which is 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Pass-through of per wager. Tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which will expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. This is a limited time offer. Copyright of the NHL 2025, all rights reserved. All right. So, I do want to take a look at something. Let's actually take a look at something real quick. Let's take a look at the actual 2026 draft. See if I can pull it up real quick, just so we can maybe peek and gander at some of the names. I know a lot of people talk about Gavin McKenna. Recently, people have been talking about Ivar Stenberg. But let's take a look at the 26 draft. And just some of the names that, hey, if the Canucks do pick in the top 5, or even top 10 for that matter, who could they maybe be looking at in this? So let's go ahead and check this out. It doesn't actually. So it's showing here traded picks, but I don't care about traded picks. I want to see who is. This is Wikipedia, so it's not the most reliable source, but no, that's not telling me the players. Here. Okay, here we go. Sportsnet. Okay, here we go. So here we go. Top 16, the lottery players. Number 1 is actually not Gavin McKenna. It's Keaton Verhoff, who's a defenseman, 6'4", 208 pounds, from North Dakota. It says Verhoff has been averaging over 20 minutes per game in his freshman year at North Dakota. The bulk of his shifts come at even strength and on the power play. When Verhoff isn't contributing offensively, he's providing consistent detail defensively. He's +3 to start the year and earning more trust in all situations as his game continues to mature. Right shot defensemen with Verhoff's size and skill are highly valuable assets at the NHL level. At this stage of the year, Verhoff is my top-ranked prospect. And then number 2 is Gavin McKenna, that everyone knows about. Left winger, 5'11", 170 pounds, from Penn State. Number 3 is Ivar Stenberg, another left winger who's also 5'11", 183 pounds, from Frölunda, the SHL. Number 4 is Carson Carrolls, defenseman, 6'2", 202 pounds, from the Prince George Cougars. And here's one that I'm really intrigued about, and I want to thank my good buddy Gerald for bringing this player to my attention. Caleb Malhotra. Now you're probably thinking, Malhotra, isn't that this Manny Malhotra? This is his son, Caleb, who's a center, wink wink, 6'2", 182 pounds, currently playing for the Brantford Bulldogs of the OHL. Malhotra is one of the most intriguing prospects for the 2026 draft, and he's on the rise. He is arguably the most trustworthy center in the draft class. Malhotra has the skill to create off the rush and make plays on the power play. He also can match up against top lines in a shutdown role if needed. His combination of speed, hockey IQ, and consistent compete and skill project Malhotra as a potential top-line NHL forward in time. His approach to the game is similar to Nick Suzuki with the Montreal Canadiens. So as we were talking about, I'd be satisfied if the Canucks drafted in the top 5. Malhotra is projected to be at number 5. So honestly, that, when the draft happens, this is a guy I'm really going to be looking at, and that's Caleb Malhotra. And just think how cool and awesome it would be if Caleb Malhotra was drafted by the Vancouver Canucks, the same team that his dad, not only played for, was a assistant coach for, and the fact that, obviously he would probably might have a stint in Abbotsford, and his dad is the head coach of the Abbotsford Canucks. So I just think that would be such a cool story and would be absolutely awesome. Let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about Caleb Malhotra? And I'll probably do like a better video talking about like the draft picks or the 2026 draft in a later on video, like maybe closer towards the end of the season or after the season is over, because a lot can change between now and then. So number 6, Chase Reed, Tynan Lawrence. I know I've heard his name come up a lot. Ethan Belchetz. I probably mispronounced that. Apologies. Number 9, Albert Smits, who's a defenseman. Number 10, Adam Novotny, who's a left winger. And then there's plenty more, but I won't go through all of them. I'll actually leave a link to this article in the description down below. You guys can check it out yourselves and, judge yourselves on who you guys like and Who do you guys think would be a good fit for the Vancouver Canucks? I'm still running with my Caleb Malhotra. I think hopefully if the Canucks do not land the first overall pick, can get Caleb Malhotra in the first round. If they manage to get a top 5 pick that's not the first overall, I would take that in a heartbeat. But I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. What do you guys think about Caleb Malhotra? And what do you guys think about this shocking revelation that Francesco Aquilini has approved a rebuild? Jim Rutherford went to Aquilini, talked to him, and he gave the old thumbs up on a rebuild. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. And as always, if you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button. And if you want to stay up to date on all your Vancouver Canucks content, be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. If you guys want to continue and maybe even join the discussion, go ahead and join our Discord. There is a link in the description down below. It's completely free to join. I'm not going to charge you anything to join it. But let's continue the conversation and as well as the discussion over there on Discord. As I said, the link is in the description down below. You can find and interact with us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok. We're everywhere. Feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. And speaking of platforms, if you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. On Spotify, feel free to give us a follow. And on either platform, leave us a rate and review. It is, of course, greatly appreciated. And it really helps out the podcast too. But that's going to do it for me. As always, let's go Canucks. Once again, happy holidays. And I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. And I'll see you guys on Friday when we got our post-game show. As you guys saw that I announced, we're going to have Trevor Beggs from Locked On Canucks joining us. I'm absolutely ecstatic for that and very much looking forward to having Trevor on the show and just to talk, Canucks, Quinn Hughes fallout, the Quinn Hughes trade fallout, and just talk, about the game. So go ahead, check that out. It's going to be a blast. And as I said, go Canucks, go. Let's go for a rebuild.
Campoli missed the puck. Ryan Johnson just gets it out. And Hughes dumped the puck back in. Campoli trying to clear it. Burrow shoots. Score!